Okay, we are live. Hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Show. I'm Rich Davie and it's Wednesday, June 25th, 2014. And this is our second live broadcast show on YouTube. On today's show, we'll be discussing the UFC Fight Night 44 Swanson versus Stevens event. And we'll be giving our predictions for the main card. And maybe we'll briefly discuss another topic in the Final Thoughts segment if we have time to do that. On today's show, we have yours truly and Damon Gazelle. Okay, thanks for taking part in another show, Damon. Go ahead and say hello to anybody that might be listening, buddy.
How's it going, Rich? How's it going, everybody?
Okay, going pretty good, my friend. Let me just mute the phone here so we don't get interrupted. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. The UFC Fight Night 44 Swanson versus Stevens event, which is taking place this Saturday, June 28th, 2014, at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. And the main card will be aired on Fox Sports 1 at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. First up, let's go right into the main event here. Cub Swanson versus Jeremy Stevens, the number 4 UFC ranked featherweight fighter versus the number 11 UFC ranked featherweight fighter. And this one's kind of like a tough call here because both of these guys hit pretty hard, and it could very easily end quickly if either fighter lands a clean, solid punch. Swanson, in my opinion, has faced better opposition, and he's got wins over Dennis Seaver, Dustin Poirier, and Ross Pearson. He's also on a 5-fight win streak. And Stevens, even though he's on a 3-fight win streak, his record shows that he kind of struggles with upper-tier talent. In his loss column, there are names like Donald Cerrone and Anthony Pettis, as well as others, but he also seems to struggle with very experienced fighters, and also very experienced fighters who themselves are struggling with success in the cage at this point in their career. I don't want to go into names as far as that goes, but, just to say that that seems to be the case, that, very experienced fighters seem to give Jeremy Stevens a bit of a difficult time. Damon, what do you think about this one, and how do you see it unfolding?
Yeah, I feel the same way you do on that. I'm actually going to go with Swanson by round 2 TKO. I just think he's one of those elite fighters like you were talking about, and I think he's just going to outmatch Stevens. I think it's going to be a brawl, and I think Swanson's going to come out on top.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty much the way that you are too. Odds makers favor Cub Swanson, by a decent margin, and fans favor Swanson by a large margin. But like you're saying there, I think it's going to be kind of like a brawl, and again, like I said earlier, I think whoever lands the big clean shot first could get the win. But as far as it going to a decision, if it does go to a decision, I think Swanson wins it. But I don't think it's going to go that way. And I think, like you're saying there, it's probably going to be two fellas recklessly trying to take each other's heads off. So I'm going to go with the Jackson mixed martial arts fighter and pick Cub Swanson by TKO in 2 as well. Any other comments on that one?
You never know. I mean, them both being strikers, it is possible you might see them try and mix it up on the ground as well. I mean, that's been known, but usually with two strikers, they want to showcase their striking, and they want to give the fans a good show. So I'm hoping that's what both are coming in with their game plan for the night.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think there is a possibility they could try to take it to the ground and pound each other out. But yeah, when you look at their fight records, that most of their knockouts or TKOs are within rounds 1 to 3. So they typically go out and they want to, like you're saying, showcase their boxing or their striking, however you like to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on that one?
These types of moves are so hard to call, man. When they're both brawlers, I mean, it just one punch is all it takes,
Exactly. All right, let's move on then. Let's go to the next one. Kelvin Gastelum versus Nicholas Musoke, the number 11 UFC ranked welterweight versus the number 54 ranked welterweight. And I don't know, man. I'm not really sure what this sort of a win does for Kelvin Gastelum. Um, but in my opinion, I think this is most likely going to be a win for him. I'm just, I'm not quite sure why the number 11 guy is going up to number 54 ranked guy. You know,
Yeah,
you got
it
the
doesn't
reasoning
make
behind
much
it?
sense. It doesn't make much sense. I don't know, maybe the records. You know, Nico is 12-2 with one no contest, and Gastelman's 9-0. So maybe it has something to do with their records and
That's got
wanting
to be what it is
to.
because they seem to have been fast tracking Kelvin Gastelum since tough
Mm-hmm.
and
No, he's a great fighter. I mean, he's an
yeah,
exciting fighter.
yeah.
But
And it just seems kind
they
of
don't
odd
they
that
don't want us too high up too quick.
yeah.
You know.
But he's been extremely impressive. I mean, wasn't he the last guy picked on that season of Tough, and then he wound up, you know, winning everything,
Yeah,
shocking everybody time and again on that season.
yeah. I don't remember when he was picked, but yeah, he wasn't the favorite. Everybody was definitely going with Silva Jr. You
Yeah,
know,
Uriah Hall.
you're
I
right.
was even going with Uriah Hall. I mean, he was just impressive, but and
Yeah,
even Gastelum too, he was impressive too because again, he was like nobody expected him to have a shot, and that guy just didn't care what anybody said. He went in and did
Gastelum
his
just
thing.
kept proving that he was a well-rounded fighter and you know won the season and has continued to be on the winning path. I actually see him uh, winning this one by round two submission.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I went out and I looked around. I scouted things. I wanted to see what everybody was saying about him. Um, I don't know. Some, and you're saying what? Round two submission?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I went and I looked, and it looks like odds makers are favoring Gastelum by a decent margin. Um, Fans overwhelmingly favor Gastelum for the win. Uh, he's kind of at a bit of a disadvantage as far as the height and the reach go, but that sort of underdog type stat hasn't really been a factor or a problem for him in the past, so I don't think that's going to be a problem for him here either. Um, he, like I said earlier, on Tough, the season that he was on, I can't recall what season that was, but he just won me over, from that season on, and then coming off of the season finale and his performance in the UFC since, I'm a fan of the guy. So
Yeah, same here. He's a very likable guy.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with a second round stoppage as well, but I'm going to go by TKO in two rather than sub. Any other comments on that one?
No, not really. I don't know too much about Nico.
Yeah, I don't
Glad
know
to
much
see
about that
guys. I
fella
mean,
either. But again,
glad to
when
see
we're looking at,
Gas.
they were moving him up the ladder the way they were, and now he's ranked number 11. That's pretty impressive for the short time he's actually been in the UFC. And then they're going to go ahead and kind of like stutter his career. Like maybe you're saying maybe it's intentional, maybe they don't want to push him into the top 10 too quick. You
Yeah,
know, but
and
this win doesn't get him in the top 10, so it's kind of odd. It's more for him to lose, more of a risk for him to lose than it is for him to win here.
yeah, it's true. But you know, you also have to look at the fact that there's so many cards now that there probably is a lot less fighters to actually stack them up against.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people are complaining about that over and again because now they're doing these, two shows a week.
yeah, I can't stand that. I mean, you pay $10 a month for Fight Pass, so you get an event, and then you get an event, but you get another event later on in the night, and
Or 5 o'clock in the
kind
morning,
of yeah, well, yeah,
or 2 o'clock in the morning. The other one was the other day.
yeah. It just, I mean, when you pay the $10, you kind of want an event for yourself. Yeah, it is for yourself, but you're getting an event, and then there's still going to be an event later that night. So, I think that's kind of a bad decision on the UFC's part, especially if they're trying to sell Fight Pass. They really need to put the Fight Pass card on its own to help sell that.
Yeah, in my opinion, like you're saying here, the situation like that where they're putting on shows at 2 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning, that really doesn't benefit, those in the Western Hemisphere. In North America, that's really no benefit to anybody, and even in South America, it's no benefit to them either, because who the hell is going to get up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to watch fights?
Yeah. The bad thing is when they are at that time. Yeah, of course you can watch the fight later in the night, but if you get on any social media, Facebook, anything, you're going to find out the results. So you pretty much have to watch it when you wake up. And if you don't want to, and not check your social media, if you don't want to get the spoilers to ruin it for you.
Yeah, and the way that the fights are set up with the international fights and the South American fights where they're on at these odd times, I think it really the Fight Pass has actually turned out to be an outlet for the UFC to actually have a place where international fans can watch the fights instead of staying up until midnight to watch the fights or 5 o'clock in the morning in their country. So it
Yeah,
seems to
and
me that's
you gotta think too. If they want to try and do it at our time frame, then it's going to be harder for them to sell tickets over there because you're asking the people that are wanting to go to the event to maybe go to the event, and it starts at like 3 o'clock in the morning for them. They don't want to do it that way either. I think it's easier to actually do it the way they're doing now. That way, the gate, which brings in the money for the UFC more than Fight Pass does based on that one card alone. So, I see why they do it.
yeah, but
But
again, it still
I
works
don't
out.
see why they do the two events. I don't like that.
Yeah, it still works out to the advantage of the viewers in outside of the U.S. or North America because again, they're going to have an opportunity to see the fights, and whether or not they're at the live venue, they'll at least get to see the fights again instead of staying up until 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to watch them. Like I know a lot of the UK people, they could hardly even make it to the main card because they have to stay up so late to watch the prelims. Then by the time the prelims are over, they're ready for bed.
Yeah, well, they don't have to pay for the pay-per-views. They have to pay for a subscription service like ESPN or Sky, but
Yeah.
they're not paying
Boy, I
the
wish we had something
50.
like that in the U.S., huh?
Yeah, exactly. But,
All right, so who are you picking in the next fight here? Andrew Craig versus Cesar Ferreira, the number 32 ranked middleweight versus the number 34 ranked middleweight.
I'm liking Ferreira by decision. I don't know a whole ton about him. I remember I have seen him fight before. Like I said, with so many events, so many cards, it's so hard to keep track of a lot of guys. But Caesar, I think he's he's got a chance. I mean, he's got a 50% KO percentage. Um, Craig has 56% decision percentage. So I mean, we'll see. He's 9-2. Andrew Craig. Cesar Ferreira is 8-3. So it's a good matchup, but I'm gonna go with Ferreira by decision.
Yeah, I was looking at the odds on this here because what I was seeing when I was doing my research on the fights and the matchups, it seems like industry insiders are favoring Craig, but odds makers slightly favor Ferreira, and fans are largely favoring Ferreira, more so than the odds makers. I mean, much more so. So I don't know. When I see that the fans are in such large agreement as far as who they think the winner is going to be, and most of the fans are thinking that the fight is going to go to a decision either way that it goes, and even the industry insiders think that it's going to go to a decision. So what I'm going to do here, being that, again, I don't know a whole lot on either one of these guys here. I do remember Cesar Ferreira. We spoke about him just a little while ago on another show. I can't remember when the last fight was that he had, but I do remember it wasn't too long ago. But I think I'm going to go with the fans and the odds makers and pick Ferreira by decision as well. So you, me, and the fans and odds makers think that Ferreira's got this one.
Yeah, he lost to CB Dalloway in his last fight.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then wasn't CB Dalloway, wasn't he dominated by somebody just before that?
Yeah, round 1 TKO. Or KO TKO on that. CB looked really good in that fight.
Yeah. Any other comments on this one?
Not really. It looks like it's a pretty evenly matched fight. So,
yeah, when you look at the odds, it's minus 190 for Hera and plus 160 for Craig. So odds makers really think it's going to go either way when the odds are that close, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next fight here. We got Diaz versus Lamas, the number 27 ranked featherweight, versus the number 4 UFC ranked featherweight.
UFC's ranking him, has him ranked number 3, what I'm seeing right now.
Oh, correct, yeah, correct. Yeah, the ranking that I had there was number 4 overall outside the UFC. But you're correct, it is number 3 UFC ranked. Unless the UFC rankings I was looking at was different.
I mean, the UFC rankings are done by the media, so they don't mean that much anyways.
Yeah, but there's a couple places where they're listed on the internet. What I do is I go and I look at the UFC site, and I also look at the Fox site, because Fox has this cool little widget where they put up all the stats for the fighters and the divisions and, you know, how they're all doing. So sometimes that's not in sync with the UFC.com site, but I believe that's where I got that from. So what do you think about this one?
I always go by the UFC one, just for.
I've seen the UFC site behind so many times. That's why I stopped using it. And it looks, I guess, maybe they're, you know, because we used to complain about that when we did the stats and the numbers and the things and the cards. We used to talk about that. How could a billion-dollar company not keep their fucking website up to date? You know.
Things aren't always the best, you know, because it is done by the media. But I go with the UFC's rankings for this because it is their company. So using their website, I think using their ranking is the better way to go. You know, as in the UFC.
Well, the Fox.com site is actually the UFC. It's supposed to be the UFC.com rankings and stats and numbers and everything. But sometimes, like I said, they're a little ahead or a little behind UFC.com. So you can never tell who the hell is going to be right. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird, though. Number 3 versus number 27, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the Diaz guy, I don't think he has many fights in the UFC. I don't know how he got matched up with Lamas. Yeah, he's fought Ariel Quintera and Nick Lentz, and he's coming off a loss to Nick Lentz, and I believe Lamas is coming off a loss to Aldo, so I don't see why they have that matched up like that.
Yeah, kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah, how do you go from
somebody?
Possibly, but yeah, I don't see how you go from just being in a title match to getting a guy that low.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he took Aldo to a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was looking at this one. I didn't do a whole lot of research on this fight. I really didn't know a whole lot about that Diaz guy, but you know, looking at what the odds makers were saying there, odds makers and fans both favor Ricardo Lamas.
Yeah, I picked Lamas by round 2 TKO. He's got heavy hands. He only got like 1% KO percentage, but he's definitely got some skill.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did not know a whole lot about the other fellow there, so I didn't really do a whole lot of research on this. But when I saw number 3, you know, versus number 27 ranked fighter, And then when I saw the odds makers minus 200 for Lamas, that's not a big favoring of him odds wise, but it's enough to say that's a comfortable spread there to think that the odds makers think he's got the win there. So I went with Ricardo Lamas by decision. Any other comments on that one?
Yeah, I think once again, too many cards, man, too many cards. How you have a number 3 ranked guy going up against a guy that isn't even in the top 15 is, it boggles my mind. Even if the guy is coming off a loss, he's coming off a loss in a championship match. It just doesn't make sense. I think they're putting on too many cards, and there's just not enough fighters to actually match up with and keep going up. Because if Lamas wins, where does he go? He
Exactly.
can't go
It's another
up.
situation like the Kelvin Gastelum fight.
Yeah, he can't go up. The only thing that can happen is he can go down if he loses.
Yeah. It's kind of like a lose-lose for both him and Kelvin Gastelum, because, what do they get out of it if they win? They get a win on their record. What do they get if they lose? A big drop down in the rankings.
Maybe fight of the nights, you never know. Maybe get that bonus money.
Yeah, that's true. All right, any other comments on that?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Clint Hester versus Antonio Braganetto. The number 35 ranked middleweight versus the number 37 ranked middleweight fighter. What do you think about this one?
I'm actually liking Hester in this one. Dude's a little beast. He's done quite a tear as of late. I believe. Let me see. He's got a 3-fight win streak. And I'm thinking that he's actually gonna get the decision on this one, even though he does have a 80% KO rating, or KO percentage. I still think this one's gonna go to a decision.
Yeah. I was looking at this one here, and odds makers are slightly favoring Antonio Braganetto, but just slightly. But fans are comfortably favoring Hester for the win. And when you're looking at what the industry insiders are saying as far as their picks go, they seem to be split on who they think is going to win this one. But looking at things and doing my stats and numbers thing that I usually do, I am going with Clint Hester by KO in 2. I don't recall exactly why I went that way, but
Probably the 80% KO percentage that he has in his fight.
What I usually do is I'll go in and I'll look at their records on ShareDog and I'll compare the two of them, wins, losses, knockouts, submissions, decisions, and see how they stack up against each other, And that usually sways me quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to go and compare them when one guy doesn't have, he's got one fight in UFC and the other guy is on a 3-fight winning streak, and he's the records outside of the UFC, unless they're in a bigger, like maybe like the WSOF or something like that. It's still even in the WSOF.
I mean, it's so difficult. I agree. How the hell do you tell? Because when you don't know any of the talent that they're going up against and getting wins or losses against, it's like, how do you really know what quality of fighter they're fighting and what quality of fighter that they really are overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible the guy could be a beast. I really don't know,
But like you're saying, that Clint Hester, he appears to be a monster. So
that
seems like a decent fella too. Any other comments on that one?
No.
Okay, this next fighter here, I'm probably going to mess up his name. I'll probably get the first one correct easily. Joe Ellenberger versus James Montastry. Did I get that right or close?
Montastry.
Montastry, there you go. Yeah, so we
Just
got the
call him Moonwalker. That's his,
Moonwalker. Yeah,
Moonwalker is his
I haven't even heard.
nickname, so we'll
Yeah,
just
I
call him.
haven't even heard of that fella, but we're looking at the number 251 ranked lightweight fighter versus the number 220 ranked lightweight fighter. So kind of interesting. Joe Ellenberger. Um, I don't know. When I'm looking and I looked at everything there, he seems to be the man according to what everybody's saying here. So do you know anything about either one of these guys?
I don't know about Joe Ellenberger. I mean, he is the younger brother of Jake Ellenberger, and if Jake's as good as he is, um, the little brother that gets picked on and beat up on by the big brother is usually going to be pretty good as well too.
He's gonna have to be a tough little bastard, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, I can't wait to see his debut. I think he's gonna definitely take it. I'm actually gonna I'm picking him by round two, TKO. I pick a lot of round twos. It's always weird because it's so hard to pick round one. There is round ones, but you never want to pick a round one.
I never pick round one. I mean, very rarely, unless I think it's going to be a total and complete fucking blowout,
Yeah.
Because you can never tell. Because somebody coming up against the guy who's got KO power and knows that there's a good chance that he's either going to be finished by submission or strikes. Usually, they're not going to engage the fighter straight away and
Yeah.
to the side.
Round one is usually the feeling out period. It's so hard to call a round one finish.
Yeah, but like you, I really don't know anything about either one of these fighters. I do know that Joe is, in fact, related to Jay. But other than what I saw on the internet in regard to their fight records, I, really didn't hunt for the odds for this one because, probably, I don't even know if there are odds on this fight because I really didn't even look for them. But I don't know. It's kind of tough to give odds out on two guys that are ranked so deeply in the division there. When you're talking 251 and 220, it's what kind of odds do you give on something like that? But
Yeah.
didn't find odds on that, but the general consensus seems to be, by fans and insiders that Joe Ellenberger is going to win this matchup. So I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to go like you, and I'm going to say Joe Ellenberger by KO and 2 because that's bold for me.
I mean, he's one of the guys that it could actually be around one. I mean, I've read and heard, I can't remember where, but I've heard a lot of good things about Joe Ellenberger. People saying he might even actually be better than his brother. So, you never know until he's actually in there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, and that's the opening fight on the main card, which is the last fight that we're doing here. Any more comments about this one or on the main card?
No.
Any ladies fighting on this one?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either.
No.
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 Okay, let's wrap up that event then. We'll return on Sunday and we'll do the post-event show for that one there. But let's talk about another fight on that card. On the undercard, I guess it's the headlining undercard bout. Colton Smith, he's kind of like in a bit of a situation here because he won the I believe it was Tough 16 season show, and that was about a year and a half ago or so, and he's kind of like standing with both of his feet on the chopping block platform here, and he might get a break even if he does lose this one, but because he did win Tough that season, I know there wasn't a whole lot of people that were favored by DFW on that season of Tough. I don't recall what the issue was, but I think that was the live season. Wasn't it the live season? I can't remember.
I think so.
But I know that wasn't a real exciting season of Tough. I don't recall what the reasoning was. I don't know if it was the format that they used when they did the live show or what the situation was, but maybe he'll get a break because he did win that. But again, like I said, You know, when you got 2 losses in a row, both of your feet are basically on the chopping block platform there in the UFC, because 2 or 3 losses in a row and you're more than likely to get cut there. So with 2 losses straight in a row for him, the third loss may earn him his walking papers, but you know, the reason that I think he may lose that is because he's going up against this undefeated guy, Carlos Diego Ferreira, on the undercard, and I don't know, that might be trouble for Smith, because this guy is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist, and I think, from what I recall, doesn't Smith kind of struggle on the ground a little bit?
I do believe he's actually lost by submission. Yeah, he's got 1 loss by submission but that was against Michael Chisia, whatever, the other guy from Tough.
In his UFC submission machines.
Yeah, that guy is known for his so that, you know.
Yeah, so it might be a problem for him, because this guy, I don't actually recall any of the fights by Carlos Diego Ferreira. Do you recall this guy?
No, this seems to be his first UFC fight.
Yeah, but from what I'm seeing, a couple of the articles I read out there on the internet, they seem to think, in the articles that I've been reading, that this could be a problem for Smith here with this guy's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pedigree.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Colton Smith was a wrestler as well, and this guy's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I think it's going to go to the ground, and Colton's probably going to get submitted again.
All right, so let's talk about...
It might stay up on the feet because they're both good on the ground, you know.
Yeah.
But I kind of doubt it.
Well, he seems like a nice, likable kind of fellow. I wish him luck, and I hope he doesn't, you know, earn his pink slip come Saturday night. But let's talk about another event briefly here on the news. Scott Coker is was the president at Bellator.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Nah, that's what we expected.
But I mean, it's interesting as far as, you know, they're taking him on to shake things up and change things around. And then we thought, when we spoke last time about this on the show that we did, we seemed to think that he was coming in to actually kind of tone things down a bit. But I just read something that they hired another... Who did they just sign to their roster? Kind of like a showboaty kind of a fighter.
I haven't paid much attention to Bellator.
No? Yeah, but I saw a couple of fights that they were making, and a couple of guys that they brought in that I thought, wow, that's not really going along with the plan or the theory that Damon and I had. Yeah, I didn't really research this before.
I thought it would be better, but I think he would tone it down, but I didn't think he would change it too much, because Strikeforce had the tournaments as well and stuff like that.
Well, they're moving away from the tournament format altogether, aren't they, Bellator now?
I'm not sure.
I
Bellator is fun to watch a lot of times, but I don't follow them like I do the UFC.
Yeah, I know that they just had an announcement the other day, Bellator, where they said that their fighters who have actually won tournaments are no longer have to fight in a tournament to get to a belt shot or something like that.
Well, maybe they'll still have tournaments, but the tournament winners of the past will get a bye and be able to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible that they can still be fighting in the tournaments, but they get a bye after winning a tournament. Yeah. So they kind of like a championship, you know. The winner of this tournament has to fight the winner of the past tournament and see who's the better from both tournaments.
Yeah, also, just a short while ago, Bellator got rid of all their women fighters off their roster. So you got to think, you know, Coker was pretty instrumental in bringing the women fighters to the forefront, because he was, you know, I don't know if he was hooked up with the Elite XC organization, which was basically the the prelude to what Strikeforce became. I don't know if he was involved with that, but in Strikeforce they had some, pretty big women's MMA events as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're the ones that really put women's MMA on the map.
Mm.
And
it kind of
yeah,
makes you think: is he going to, approach that route again, and is he going to put women back on Bellator? Because I think that would be great for the women.
with the UFC getting women's now, and they got the thing with Invicta.
And WSOF.
I kind of see the pickings for women fighters being slim, because the UFC is definitely trying to scoop up a lot of the women fighters to fill up some divisions and maybe make more later on. So it's hard to say.
Well, the only reason I say that is because, like you're saying there, now we've got the women on the Fight Pass subscription network, and it doesn't seem like Cyborg is too keen on fighting for the UFC and being on, the Fight Pass network there. She keeps saying she's coming down to 135 for Ronda Rousey, but in my mind, I think Cyborg would be an excellent talent for Bellator to go after now, and maybe kind of get a
Yeah,
female.
but who do you put her up against? Do you throw a bunch of cans at her?
Well,
I mean,
I think you have a lot of. I'm not saying all women fighters are small. I think there's quite a few available women that are in 140, 145 range that might go to Bellator, because again, UFC isn't really pursuing the 140, 145 women. So maybe that would be something that Bellator would like to corner the market on, go after the 140, 145 women, and start a serious division there, because it's kind of not fair to women fighters who are 140 and 145 that they don't really have a home to go to. And yeah, they have Invicta FC, but I don't know, man. Again, maybe because Invicta really didn't have a home to really broadcast their shows and air their shows on a regular venue that people could go to religiously and find a place to watch their events. Maybe that's why they weren't putting on as many fights as they needed to. But maybe that would be a market that Bellator would want to corner and grab the 145, and then the women who want to fight more frequently, because Bellator has only been doing like one fight a year, one event a year. So maybe Bellator would want to capture that 140, 145 pound market of women, get them over to Bellator and put on a serious 145 pound division where they could fight 2-3 times a year.
Yeah, it's I mean, other than Cyborg, if there was another big name 145 pounder that the UFC could market, I could see the UFC starting a division there. Women's MMA just came to the UFC not too terribly long ago, and now they're putting in a strawweight, and
I'm so excited for that.
It's possible that we see in a year that in another year that they want to put a 145 division in.
I'm going to think before they do a 145 pound division in the UFC, they're probably going to do the atom weight, the 105 pound division, maybe.
That's possible.
Maybe the 125 pound division.
I think kind of skirting around the 145 division because of Cyborg.
Yeah, I think that's the reason too.
I
think what DFW was trying to do.
She is a draw. She's a draw. They would have to pay her. And building a division around one fighter is kind of hard. With bantamweight, it was much easier to do because you had Ronda Rousey. You have Misha Tate. You had some names to go with. I mean, you've got fighters like Kat Zagano who's coming up, and I mean, it was much easier to build that division than it would be to build 145. Like Dana said, there's just not the competition for a lot of these divisions is just not there. I was actually surprised to see strawweight come in, but I see
There's a lot of
She'd be
awesome
hot.
talent in the 115-pound division of women's MMA. I can't wait to see this tough 20, man.
Yeah, I think that one tough, the number for it is kind of what made them want to go this way, and I think that's why they are putting in
I
another
think this could
division.
be the biggest season as far as ratings go for tough.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's uh, a cross gender type thing where you have men. Look, you have a lot of men too, though, that don't like women's MMA.
Yeah, I don't
But
understand that.
you
Why?
have a lot of, when you look at the numbers for the UFC's core audience, uh, it's like the women are almost as equal as the men. I think it's like 60-40 or 55-45 in the fan base. It's really close.
Yeah, I don't understand why a lot of people don't like the women. I think they bring it. They put on more interesting fights more often than not than the men do.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has. You have a lot of guys who think women shouldn't be fighting, and that it's narrow-minded to think that way. But there's still the people. It's just like a lot of people that still think MMA is barbaric. You
Yeah,
know, you're not going to change people's minds overnight. You gotta show them what can happen and change your minds.
yeah. But going back to that point you made about building a division around one fighter, I kind of agree with you on that too, because that's pretty much what put women's MMA on hiatus for a while. Because after the lovely Gina Joy Carano lost to Cyborg, that pretty much is what pushed women's MMA to the back of the line and out of people's minds. And I think that's also what um, sparked Shannon Knapp to go ahead and start up Invicta FC. Because after Gina Carano lost, which I didn't think was an ass whooping like a lot of people thought it was, um, that kind of put women's MMA out of the forefront, and people kind of forgot about it. And then it was really Ronda Rousey that was the one that kind of sparked interest in it again.
Yeah, and she's the one that brought it to the forefront, but she wasn't who they built the division around. There was already well-known fighters uh, outside of Ronda Rousey in that division.
Oh yeah, today there are just so
Well,
many more women fighters that have names that you recognize. I don't know if that's because I've been a fan of MMA for God knows how long now, but
and Gina Carano, she's doing movies and stuff now, so I don't see her coming back.
well,
But
they keep talking to her, and she says she wants to fight. But again, I see her having a difficult time because I don't know if you've seen pictures of her lately. She seems to be just a little bit bigger than she used to be,
gosh,
and
but not
weight-wise.
I mean, movies and stuff. Time consuming. It doesn't let you do the training like she would if she was doing it for a fight.
Yeah,
You know,
but I'm just saying she just
these
seems to be
fighters have to.
bigger. She struggled in the past at 140 and 145. There's no room for her in a division in the UFC there, so she would actually
Mm,
have to cut to 135. And I don't know if Gina can do that. I mean, you know.
yeah, and you don't want to see her uh, starve
I mean, I'm
herself
sure
or
she can make
whatever
the
to
weight,
do
but I'm
it.
not sure if that would be beneficial for her to fight at 135.
Yeah, you don't want to see people that have struggled to make weight at a higher weight class try and make weight at an even lower one. That's just detrimental to their health, and it's not something that they should be doing.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about as far as final thoughts go here?
Definitely, definitely. Chael Sonnen, Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis and the UFC have revealed the Metamorphosis grappling matches on Fight Pass as well.
Oh, no shit. I didn't know they were hooked up with them.
Yep.
Okay,
And
so Chael Sonnen, I did note that. I kept seeing yesterday that everybody was posting he's going to be fighting in that event.
mhm.
So then I guess he's not retiring. I guess maybe that's where he's going to be going, or is this just like a
Well, it's grappling, so it's not necessarily MMA.
right? But I
But
just
yeah,
thought he was done with combat sports because he gave this big long speech on, not big long speech,
well,
but
he said he's done with MMA, and
well, he gave a brief
grappling.
speech on UFC Tonight where he said, his family comes first and he's got to worry about his health first, and it sounded like he was pretty much giving it up altogether, and I didn't expect him to go further with any sort of combat sports at all. I thought he was going to sit down in the anchor chair, retire, and devote the rest of his life to commentary, anchor desk, and his wife and family.
Well, it sounds like Metamorphosis doesn't have any TRT issues, so if he can still use his TRT and grapple, he can make money. He can still do the commentating,
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to see even more things added to Fight Pass. You got to get you want to get that $10 a month. You want to get your money's worth out of it. Adding the women's fighting, adding Metamorphosis, grappling.
What is that, like a gi grappling sort of a thing, or?
I don't really remember too much. I remember it being big because I believe it was Royce Gracie and Eddie Bravo had this big thing on Metamorphosis 3 where they've grappled before, and bad blood between the two of them.
Between who?
Royce Gracie and I believe it's Royce Gracie and Eddie Bravo.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen something like that out there.
But Metamorphosis. I'm not sure if Eddie Bravo came up with Metamorphosis, or I'm not sure exactly who owns that company.
Yeah, but the Gracies and Bravo, they typically fight in the gi, right? They fight.
Yeah, I think they're allowed in it.
Yeah.
It's grappling. It's totally different. It's it's not striking. It's
right.
But when you watch something like that, you know that it's going to be all grappling, and a lot of people actually love the grappling aspect of mixed martial arts, and for them to actually see actual grappling matches is good for the sport, and it might help some people that don't like the grappling aspect of MMA to actually start liking it if they happen to check it out, and see that it is pretty cool. I mean, way back in the day, you had Roy Nelson beating Frank Mir.
Yeah, that's going to be the struggle, though, because, I agree with you. Yeah, I enjoy the grappling aspect as well. But most hardcore fans that have been watching the sport for a while, they do appreciate grappling. But the challenge is going to be getting the newer fans to actually watch something with no striking in it, because when a new fan comes to the sport and they see all the striking, the different aspects of striking, as well as the grappling and the wrestling, and they're probably going to have a difficult time sitting down and watching it. Kind of like me going back to boxing now, because if you didn't watch combat sports before and you started watching UFC or MMA of any kind, where it incorporated all aspects of martial arts, it's kind of like me. I was a boxing fan for a long time. Then I went to MMA, and I have a difficult time actually watching boxing now. I still try to turn it on and watch it when there's a fight on, but geez, I can't get past 2 or 3 rounds before I'm just going, wow, where's the excitement here?
Yeah, I hear that. I don't know. It still excites me. I'm a fan of combat sports, but when I do watch it, you see them, you see them actually clinch up so much and stuff, and it's like when you see that clinch, you're like, take them down, and it's like, it kind of one-dimensionalizes something with it is one-dimensional boxing, because it's one aspect of a martial. It's one martial art out of all the martial arts that MMA brings you. I don't know. There's nothing like MMA, and
for me, combat sports is the only sports. I don't really enjoy basketball, football, or any of the other sports, especially soccer and hockey.
I would consider football a combat sport.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
one-on-one. Yeah.
But they've always been my favorite kind of sports to watch. I watched everything from the very beginning of combat sports, where you had the boxing, and then you had the tough man type shows, and then you had the K1, and all of the other combat sports in between there, coming up to the UFC. And then once the UFC was around, I couldn't go back to boxing. It was just not exciting for me anymore. But I actually used to watch K1 and all the other available shows that were on. Even the IFL, I used to watch that.
Yeah, there was a lot of UFC guys at watching Crow Cop at Glory's last event.
I heard they had some nasty knockouts in that event.
Yeah, I know Scott Jorgensen was there. I know Faber was there. I believe even Evander Holyfield was there.
Yeah, I heard something about that too.
From boxing, of course, but I mean, MMA is helping bring other combat sports to the forefront, which is a good thing. I like watching kickboxing. It's that one's kind of two aspects to MMA. I mean, it's not like boxing where it's pretty much just punching and grappling, but not being able to take it to the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how Chael does in Metamorphosis, and how Metamorphosis will actually go, if it'll go on or not.
Well, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to check that out there, because I decided I was just going to go ahead and not get the Fight Pass, because I do want to see some of these international events, but I'm not going to spend the money to have access to those events, and then I'm going to have to get up at 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning to watch them. So I kind of decided against it, and it's really not all that worth it to me to watch, one or two undercard fights on Fight Pass preceding, a Fox Sports 1 event or a pay-per-view event. It's just not worth it for me.
After Saturday's event, I believe I'm decided to go ahead and cancel my Fight Pass subscription as well, just because I don't use it enough. Really, if they have more events, if you're doing prelims, and you put one fight on Fight Pass, I mean that's kind of like giving you one beer and not letting you have another one.
Giving you one beer and a pat on the head.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough. Of course, I do watch the events anyways, but a lot of times I tend to actually skip the Fight Pass prelims, because it is one fight, maybe two, and they're not really big name fighters or anything, or known fighters. They're kind of the lowest of the low tier on there. So
yeah, I do want to ask you, because
go ahead.
I know that you have Fight Pass, so I did want to ask you, did you watch the Patrick Cummins fight?
No, I did not.
No. I was just wondering how he did. I know that he won, but I was just wondering what he looked like.
I could probably check it out, but I would have to get onto it, and I don't know if I can do it over here at my brother's.
Okay, our live chat show went quite a while here. We're still broadcasting live here for a second time. Is there any other thing you want to talk about real briefly before we say goodbye?
No, nothing other than say congratulations to my brother and his wife on their new baby boy.
Your Uncle Fishing time again for the 5th time, right?
Yeah, 5th time. Born this morning, around 11 something, 10:50.
Okay. Well, congrats to Uncle Fishing time and to your brother and your sister-in-law.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing over here. I'm house sitting for him and watching his pit bull and playing EA Sports UFC.
And how big was the baby? 5 pounds?
5 pounds 6 ounces.
Well, a boy?
Yep.
Oh, that's a tiny baby.
Yeah. Well, she was due in July, but she got something preeclampsia, so they wanted to go ahead and induce her. I got a call from him Monday night asking what I was doing, and I figured he wanted me to come over and bring my PS4 so we could play some EA Sports UFC, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Which
I remember when
I just got back before we did the show from actually seeing a little guy. He's all wrinkly. He's a cute little guy. Looks exactly like my brother. You know.
I don't know if you've ever been through the torment where when my little brother had his wife was pregnant and they had I think it was their second child. They woke me up because I was staying at their house at the time, and they woke me up and they said, "Got to go to the doctor. Got to get to the hospital. She's having a baby now." So I was like, "Oh my God!" You know, my brother says, "You got to drive." I can't drive, man. I'm a nervous wreck. So I get in the car, and his wife is saying, "I'm gonna have the baby," and she's screaming the whole time. And I'm running through red lights trying to get to the hospital, freaking out. It was the most stressful thing in my life, trying to get to the hospital before the baby came out in the car. I was
Yeah,
freaking, man.
this they were gonna induce labor, and it lasted longer than he expected. He was expecting the baby to be born yesterday sometime. So he's like, yeah. So you coming up? I'm like, she's pregnant. Labor can take
So
forever.
what's his name?
They named him Hunter.
Oh, cool.
They haven't come up with no name yet, but Hunter. It's a cool name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right, well,
I went up there and seen a little guy. I swear it looks just like my brother.
make sure you congratulate your brother.
Will do.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
All right, buddy. It was fun. It was interesting, and we were supposed to have somebody else join us on the show here, but they had an emergency at the last minute, and they could not join us. So, I guess what we'll do is we'll do the post-event show on Sunday, and maybe we'll have a couple people join us for that one there.
I don't know what's going on Sunday. Yeah,
Well,
new baby and everything, and other stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully, I can make it.
we hope that you can make it. All right, buddy. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time, my friend.
All right, Rich. You have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.